Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into something that every single organization has to deal with, communicating change. And we're going to see why good communication isn't just, a helpful tool, it's the absolute cornerstone for building a bridge of trust when everything around you feels like it's shifting.
So let's just jump right in with a question that I'm sure you've been there, right? Why is it that those huge all-hands announcements, the ones that are so carefully planned, why do they so often just completely backfire? Why do they end up creating more anxiety and confusion than any kind of confidence?
Well, the answer is kind of simple, but it's really profound. And it's the big idea we're going to unpack today. It's because just giving people information is not the same thing as creating real understanding. And that gap, that's where change goes wrong. It's where it all falls apart.
Okay, so to close that gap, we've got to start at the source. Let's look at this from the leader's point of view, the sender of the message. What is their real purpose here? Well, it all has to start with why.
So what are we really trying to do when we communicate? It is not about just talking at people. It's a deliberate process. You're sharing the why, the what, and the how. And you're doing it so people can actually get it, so they can get on board with it, and then, finally, so they can do something about it.
And when you nail this, it is so powerful. It starts by making the purpose crystal clear, so everybody knows where you're headed. Then it explains the process, which gets rid of all that uncertainty. It actually connects with people. And from there, it builds real commitment. You turn people from passive listeners into folks who are actually part of the change.
All right, so we get our purpose as the sender, but how does that message actually travel across that gap to the person on the other side? This is where we have to consciously, deliberately build the bridge.
Now, the classic way to think about this is the good old sender-receiver model. It seems pretty straightforward, right? I have an idea, I put it into words, I send it, you decode it. But here's the catch, and it's a big one. For this to work at all, we have to have a shared understanding. We got to be speaking the same language, literally and figuratively.
And this slide really breaks down how our thinking on this has changed. That old sender-receiver model on the left, that's kind of like just throwing a ball. The only goal is to make a clean one-way throw. But the transactional model on the right, well, that's more like a dance. It's a two-way street where context and feedback and the relationship itself are constantly shaping the meaning. It's a real conversation, not a broadcast.
So let's talk about how these messages get sent. First up, you've got push communication. Think of those company-wide emails or the big formal announcements. The message is basically broadcast to everybody. It's a one-to-many kind of thing.
Then you have pull communication. This is where the person on the receiving end gets to take control. They're actively pulling information from a source, like going to an internal website to check for an update. They're empowered to go find the answers they need, right when they need them.
And finally, you've got the most powerful one, interactive. This is that direct two-way exchange. It's the team meeting, the Q&A session, even just a quick chat. This is where real-time feedback happens. It's where you clarify things on the spot, and where that genuine connection is made.
Okay, now let's flip this whole thing on its head. We've talked about the sender, we've talked about the bridge, but the only thing that really, truly matters is the destination, the receiver's reality. Because for every single employee, the one question that counts is, what does this mean for me?
And this gets us to the absolute heart of the challenge. How do a bunch of words from leadership, just a message, how does that actually become personal meaning for somebody on your team? How does it become motivation?
Because really, the goal isn't to just dump a pile of information on people. The goal is to build something together. It's about shaping how they see the change and creating this solid foundation of trust. Because without that trust, it doesn't matter how perfectly you craft your message, it's just not going to land.
Okay, so we've looked at the why, the how, and the who. So let's put it all together. Here it is, the master blueprint. 10 rules for building a communication bridge that's strong enough to handle any change you throw at it.
So the foundation of this bridge has to be clarity. Rule 1, be clear and concise. Just say what matters. Ditch the corporate jargon. Rule 2, know your audience. A message for your engineers is going to sound way different than one for your sales team, right? You got to tailor it.
Next, you reinforce that bridge with purpose and process. And this is a big one. Always, always start with the why. People will walk through fire for a cause they believe in. And then use the right channel. You wouldn't announce a huge layoff in a memo, would you? Of course not. You have to match the weight of the message with the way you deliver it. All right, now for the stuff that actually builds trust. You have to listen just as much as you talk. Feedback isn't some annoying interruption. It's critical data telling you how your message is actually being received, and you have to be consistent. Every message, every action has to line up. Contradictions will just shatter trust instantly.
The delivery itself is so important. You've got to time it well. We all know the classic mistake of dropping bad news at 4 p.m. on a Friday. And then, and this is huge, check for understanding. Don't just ask any questions and move on when no one talks. Ask something better, like, what's one thing that still feels a little fuzzy to you?
And finally, you can never, ever forget the human element. Show some empathy. Change is personal. It's an emotional journey, not just a business plan. Acknowledge that, and then follow through. Communication is not a one-and-done announcement. It's an ongoing conversation. You got to keep people in the loop.
You know, this quote just sums it all up perfectly. Communication isn't just another box to check on a project plan. It is both the strategy and the bridge that connects what a leader wants to happen with what an employee actually experiences.
So, the next time you're facing a change, whether it's big or small, don't just think about the announcement you need to make. Instead, ask yourself this: what bridge do I need to build? And how am I going to make sure it's strong enough to carry everyone safely to the other side?